Good day to everyone. This time of year, we look forward to the end of the liturgical year. The first Sunday of Advent, which will be the first Sunday of December, December the 3rd, that's the beginning of the new liturgical year. And then the readings for at least the Sundays go from A to B. There's a cycle of 3, A, B, and C. This Sunday, of course, coming is the 33rd. Then, right after Thanksgiving, that last Sunday of the liturgical year for this year is Jesus Christ, the King, the Judge. It prepares us for Jesus coming to judge the world. And that's reflected in today's readings. First of all, our first reading, Proverbs chapter 31, verses 10 to 13, 19 to 20, 30 to 31. As the master in the gospel readings entrusted his possessions to his servants, likewise the husband in this reading entrusts his heart to his wife. She does not let him down, for she brings him good and not evil all the days of her life. It is her heart that moves her hands to the good of her, for the good of her husband, and the poor and the needy, not her charm or beauty, that give useful service all the years of her life. The woman who fears the Lord is to be praised, it says in this reading. This is not the fear that is crippling and trembling, but the Old Testament fear that respects God as the God over us, to be glorified and obeyed in all that we do and are. In the third reading, Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 to 30. In this parable, the master entrusts his possessions to his servants, to each in proportion according to his ability. When the master came back, he settled accounts with them. The first two doubled their master's possessions, but the third simply returned the master's possession without any increase, since he had done nothing to make an increase. To the first two the master said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." Then he rewards them with even greater responsibilities, saying, "Come, share your master's joy." However, to the third he says, "You wicked, lazy servant," and orders him to be thrown into the darkness outside, calling him a useless servant. Those who show themselves to be responsible with the master's possessions will be rewarded greatly, but those who are not shall be punished severely. St. Paul wrote in his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 5, verse 10, "We must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may receive recompense according to what he did in the body, whether good or evil." Clearly, the master that Jesus is referring to in this parable is himself. Some say that possessions or talents that Jesus is referring to are our various abilities. I, however, think that it is referring to the graces that he gives us to make of ourselves and the world around us something better, thus giving him glory and building his kingdom. His graces are a share in his infinite power, sharing with us to enable us to do his will here on earth. As it says in the Our Father prayer, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." To refuse to respond affirmatively to God's graces to better ourselves and the world around us is to put everything in the devil's hands to deal destructively with us and the world around us. Evil is defined by a refusal to use God's graces, that is, to respond to God's intervention within us, to move us in the direction he wants us to go. And thus, we are an unresponsive, irresponsible people. In the Nicene Creed, we say every Sunday, "He will come again in glory to judge the living and the dead. Jesus will simply read back to us our lives. That will be our testament either to our eternal salvation or destruction. In the second reading, the first letter to the Thessalonians, chapter 5, verses 1 to 6, Paul writes, "For you yourselves know very well that the day of the Lord will come like a thief at night." The day of the Lord is an expression that means the second coming of Jesus. That was to be the end of the universe and the final judgment day for all. Paul goes on to criticize the attitude that says peace and security, that there is nothing to be worried about. All is well, and we do not have to be responsible to any God. We have everything under our control. But Paul writes, "Therefore let us not sleep as the rest do, but let us stay alert and sober. Be ready and not caught irresponsibly unprepared as useless servants." The dear Lord each day prepare us for the joy that will be ours one day, because we have lived every moment in the Lord.